Starting a company is easy. Growing a company is harder. But selling your company? That's a whole different story. In the Big Exit Show, we lift the curtain of secrecy around selling businesses by learning from ambitious and successful founders who have been on this roller coaster. Our hosts, venture capital investors Johan van Mil, the founding and managing partner of Peak, and Anke Hauskes, the founding and managing partner of NP Hard, will help you on this exciting journey.
Hey, Johan. So we just hang up the phone with Marc, who told us about the beginnings of Usabilla selling his company to SurveyMonkey, and then this process of how you pick the acquirer. New learnings for me again and again, especially because he shared a lot of details. How was it for you? Because you've done more of these types of podcast interviews.
Yeah, it was for me. It was, I think, a little bit more recognition, right? How we ran the process. I think also what different was, and I think what's fascinating to hear was the cap table, because he had a really, let's say, screwed cap table on that end. So a lot of different smaller parties, and then to get everybody, let's say, in the same alignment. I think that was a big learning for me. And what I liked a lot is, especially in this podcast, because this guy joined the company as a late founder, right? And I know that a lot of companies try to get in a late founder and also try to maneuver a deal here. And also he took over the company from the founders to run it, from his co-founder. So it was also, it gave a bigger insight. How do you work together with a founding team? How do you get a foot in the door, but also how you work together? And I think in this case, it was also looking at the exit level. And also I think that's the success that they brought was fascinating to hear. What was really funny for me, Anke, is that we as Peak, we looked at this company before, right? That's always great to hear a company, how it's developed over time. So I think big insight for me. Yeah.
Good. So with that, let's dive in.
Let's do that.
And today we will speak with Marc van Agteren from Usabilla. Marc is a dynamic leader known for his pragmatic approach and passion for building great software products. With a track record as the CEO of Usabilla, which was acquired by SurveyMonkey back in 2019, which is the reason why we invited him to the show today. He was VP of product at SurveyMonkey afterwards. And he has a background in information security at EY. And he's committed to delivering value to customers outside of work. And we're going to talk about that as well, Marc, today. He's a marathon runner, a musician, and a technology enthusiast. So lots to discuss today. So welcome to the show, Marc.
Thank you, Anke. Thank you, Johan. Happy to be here.
Yeah, we have been waiting to get you in the show for a long time. So it's good to get going. So maybe, and we quickly discussed it right before we ended on press play. Can you tell us a little bit about the beginnings of you and Usabilla? For the listeners who don't know the backstory yet.
Yeah, no, of course. So Usabilla was originally founded by a very good friend of mine, Paul Veugen. Paul and I know each other since our student time. We were part of the same student rowing club, and I saw Paul starting the company early 2009. Although he was already working on it in 2008. But it was around that time as well when I met my back then girlfriend, now wife, and she is from Tallinn, Estonia, so far away. And it was around that 2010 when she came live here in the Netherlands, and it was around that time that Paul was talking to me. Hey, Marc, you had to join the company, but I held it off a little bit, just because I had a very secure job at Ernst & Young around that time. Although I wasn't really enjoying myself, and I was really experimenting myself with a lot of tools, a lot of web development as well. And but it wasn't until 2011 when I actually joined the company. And Paul had just raised 750K seed round, and that was the time when I felt more like comfortable to join the company. My wife was already working. She was working at the company Nike, who has its European headquarters in the Netherlands. So we were more secure in that sense. Although joining a startup with barely any revenue is never secure, but it was for me the right time to join the company. So although I wasn't really part of the first 2 years of the company, I actually on the sideline saw Paul building the organization.
And what did Mark? What did Paul? Because we see that with a lot of founders, right? That they want to get in talent, and especially early on, it's hard, right? Because you don't have any money, not a lot of proof, and it's hard to convince people with, let's say, well-earned jobs, like you were at EY. What was, let's say, the convincing that Paul did? What was the decision? Why did you took the decision to join Usabilla at that time?
For me, it was always a dream to be actually part of a smaller startup company, and it was actually my dream to actually own my own company, which also later became actually reality. But yeah, it was always a dream. But I was stuck to Ernst & Young. I learned a lot there. Also learned a lot about what I didn't really like. And being part of a large organization, I didn't feel that I was actually delivering value to a lot of my companies, or to my customers around that time. So for me, it was always like, okay, I want to join something and create something big out of it. Yeah, that's why. Yeah, Paul and I, we always talk. We always saw each other at parties. We were always talking about what we could do, but that was just the right time to join the organization.
And maybe to jump into that, I talked to a lot of other, like, I don't want to call them like wannabe founders, but people who are working at big corporates. They want to take the lead, but I keep having these conversations for years and they never do it. You did it. So I think a lot of people maybe listen to this, like, I wish I was like Marc. Like, what would be the advice? Like, what would the advice for you to be to those listeners?
Yeah,
because instead of like starting a company, you joined a company really early on, and then became the CEO. So that's like another alternative how you can run your own company.
I think first of all you need to determine for yourself: are you a 0 to 1 founder, or are you a 1 to 100 founder, so to say? And to me, if I'm honest, I don't think I'm a 100% 0 to 1 founder, but it just took time to actually find that out. I think Paul is the 0 to 1 founder, right? Like he already proven that with this company, did it later on with Human. He's now doing with Detail. Starting a company from scratch is so freaking hard. And I think for us, for me at least, there was already some basis. Although the actual Usabilla that, me and the team and of course my later joined business partner Roel, is not the Usabilla anymore that Paul initially started. It was still the actual foundation that Paul put there, and without Paul, we wouldn't be here. That is very simple. Yeah. So the advice, the advice is, I think in the end it is doing something that you really like, and for me that was building products and really delivering value to my like customers, and if you. Then you should just go for it. But I also understand that there needs to be some financial support, and that's not there for everyone. But I just explained to you, I also joined a little bit later because I didn't feel comfortable. And I think in this you have this like risk spectrum where you have people who are very they want to take every risk out there, and you have a very risk averse person. And I'm maybe in the middle a little bit. I can actually take some risk, but I also know when to not do things, for example.
Yeah, and I think this is such a valid point. I don't think as a community or an ecosystem we talk about this exact thing enough, where you've got like the 0 to 1 founders and the 1 to 100 founders. And also, like, it's a shame we don't have Paul in the show. Like, that would have been nice as well. Like, when do you think like I'm handing this over? Because for the lifetime of a company, there's so many different phases where there's the opportunity for a lot of people to be there at the right time, not from the day 0, but day 1, when the company actually has kind of like found some product market fit and then has to scale forward.
Yeah.
Johan, sorry, you were.
No, and the good news, we had Paul also on the podcast, right? But mainly about his other company, about Human, but also he touched there also on Usabilla, and I think he dove also into the topic why he asked you also to join the company there and what it brought. Okay. So I think good for our listeners to listen to that episode of with Paul Veugen. Hey, I had a question, Marc, because I recall that I think pretty soon I read when I was reading, and of course I know Usabilla, right? Because it's really a known company. Also given the exit that you did, but especially the time and the effort that you put in, I think during 10 years to pivot that company. And I want to dive into that pivotal phase, because I recall we also had peak. We had Usabilla pitching it at that time. So we looked also at the seed round, decided not to do it. And that's, I think, also on our, let's say, miss list, so to say, because I think it has been really a successful company. But at that time, we had also had doubt, let's say, about the sustainability of the product, right? Is this not a one-time off that people start using it and then, of course, cancel their subscription, right? And I think also you ran into that phase. I think that was more or less the time that you joined, if I understood correctly, or shortly before you joined already, right? So then you pivoted. Can you take us a little bit, let's say, through that moment, and also how you handled that pivot from that moment onwards?
Yeah, no, definitely. So I joined in 2011, 1st of June 2011, actually. Usabilla was an actual remote usability testing software, hence the name Usabilla. And you're actually right, Johan. It was a little bit seen as more a one-off product. So it was a great visionary product that Paul put there. But we also saw that it was used by or smaller agencies, and they had a kind of an actual project, used our software, and then 2 months later churned. And that's what we also really saw. So we saw our revenue, and our revenue that time wasn't a lot, right? I can actually tell you. Like I think we when I joined, maybe 2,000-3,000 euros per month revenue only. And then you start changing things in the software, and you start like, but the things didn't really move the needle there. We did actually a sidestep. We created a B2C product. It was around that time when the now big company Pinterest was in this early stage, especially here in the Netherlands. And we came up with a B2C product where you could actually pin design elements on websites, but there was no real business model around that. So we were starting thinking, okay, how can we actually monetize this? But we created technology which could actually grab screenshots from websites. And we're talking Internet Explorer 8 and Explorer 9 times, right? So it's different than everybody nowadays uses Chrome or Safari, where you have all these features baked in. Around that time, we created a very nifty functionality where you could hover with your mouse over elements on the screen and can actually tag those, and it would send to our servers. And on the server side, we actually recreated the entire page, and we could strip the design elements. So the idea behind that was that people could tag or pin design elements. So we have a very big library of design elements, which was a great idea, but there was no actually business model around that. And I think we actually launched it at South by Southwest, and that was always, I think it's always in March or April.
March.
Paul and I went there, 2012 it was. And after that, we got some traction with the software, but again, no actually business model. And we had the 750K seed round, but I think around that time, like let's say May, June 2012, I think we only had about 100K left of those 750K. So then it was okay, we need to take it somewhere. And it was around that time when Paul started the idea around human already, I think with another business partner around that time. And I think he was already onto his next thing. And I can still remember when we actually set to together, and he asked me, "Hey, Marc, do you want to take over the company?" And for me, this was a big opportunity, but to be actually frank with you, it was also a little bit scary. So I had to think about it. Okay, hey, what is happening here? And that was the actually pivot time when Paul left the day-to-day business. We scaled down the company. So we went from, I think we had around 11 people there. We went to 2 engineers, somebody for UX and marketing, and it was me as the jack of all trades, basically. I was doing grocery shopping, customer support, doing some programming as well. Basically, everything what had to be done in order for the others to be successful. Later that year, Roel Jansen, the entire the rest of the company's time business partner, joined the company. Paul also helped him hire him. And it was also the time when we did an entire product pivot. So we had the screenshot technology, but we thought, how can we use this screenshot technology to enable companies to get on a day-to-day value out of it? Our customers don't churn. We thought of there were around the time you had Campal, Opinion Lab. These were these feedback tabs on the side of the websites. When you click the feedback tab, you could provide feedback. They basically, I'm not sure if it was Opinion Lab or Campal who actually started with that, but we thought, hey, let's take that principle of that feedback button, but add the actual screenshot technology into it. And we were the first there doing it. I think later on, all these companies copied it. Like you have Hotjar, for example, they all copied it, but we were the first ones that actually put it in there. We were also the first ones that had, when you click the feedback tab, it actually would start in a nice model window and not in a separate pop-up. Our design looked really well. And so we started doing that, but we also went where Usabilla was first very much, okay, you want to sign up, create a quick demo account, and you can take out your credit card. And we were charging $49 up to $199 per month on the original Usabilla product. But with the Roel Jansen on board, who had a really commercial focus, we thought like, okay, we're providing value on a day-to-day basis here with our new software solution. How can we get more from our customers? We're delivering more value to our customers. How can we step away from this month-to-month subscription model and go more to annual contracts? And that's where you always have to hustle, of course, right? It's the early stage of changing your business model. And we just put a number on it, 850 euros per month, but it was 10,200 euros, 850 times 12, that we charged our customers. And I still really remember, I think it was November 2012, where we signed our first enterprise customer, which was Dela, a very well-known insurance company here in the Netherlands. And for them, it was peanuts. Like we were like 10K per year. It's a lot of money, but for them, they had the entire Adobe suite, Adobe Analytics, and they were paying hundreds of thousands of euros for that. So 10K for a software solution like ours, it was peanuts to them. And I'm still very actually grateful for like Dela and the team there for actually believing in us and taking the actual chance with us. And I think they have remained a customer for like 10 years. And that was basically the 2012 pivot story where really a lot of things changed. You also see we kept the original Usabilla product until it was less than 10% of our overall revenue. And then we phased it out. So I think in early 2016 or late 2015, if I recall correctly, we phased out the original Usabilla product, which we rebranded early on to Usabilla Visual Survey. And we still had customers on it, but after a while, you just need to focus and pick your battles. And we are like, okay, we phased out an entire product. That's when around that time, we were already making a significant more revenue with the new Usabilla feedback solution. Yeah.
Probably because you still had 100K left in the bank, right? So probably also your clients would have to pay beforehand, right? The annual fee. So that's how you finance the company. Yeah.
100%. Yeah. We basically charged our customers up like front. We also reduced, I think our burn rate before this pivot was about 45K per month. After we reorganized the organization and we stripped it down fully, I think we were on like 20K per month. So we only had to sign 2 customers for 10K per month, and we were out of our cost. And it was also that year where I made an actual business plan. Okay, I want to be break even within 12 months. Eventually, we became break even within nine months, and we've been we haven't raised any more after that. We've been growing the company purely on our own cash flow. Had some challenges here and there as well. I can maybe talk about it later, but that is how the pivot story went.
And maybe after that moment that you sign on Dela, that you figured out like 850 sounds like a good idea. Like I'm still curious how you ended up with that number. But was it that moment that you basically got the growth machine going on, and how did you then go to get all these enterprise clients in?
I don't think we around that time had found a product market fit yet, because it was still very early on. And the Usabilla software, what it was later, it was a full voice of the customer platform. That early day, it was purely just a feedback tab on the side of the website, and it was a small dashboard where customers would get that feedback in so they could analyze it. I think it was for us a moment where we thought, okay, we can actually get something out of it. Like the 10K perfectly feels fine for customers with a significant online presence. And we started getting more intro calls as well. And it was also around that time when initially with the initial Usabilla product, we were very US focused. And our website was in English. We had dollar prices on our website. It wasn't. Yeah, if you looked at the website, it looked like a US company. After the pivot, we decided that I think there are a lot of companies here in this country that actually benefit of our solution. So we started just cold emailing, cold calling companies we had Vodafone, the telecom operator, T-Like Mobile, Booking.com, and we were all able to get appointments there because they saw something cool in our software. They saw, hey, we need to gather feedback on our website, and we don't really know how to get feedback. And then there was this new solution that we created, and it was a very easy to understand solution as well, right? Like it's just like you're installing Google Analytics on your website with a small JavaScript snippet. It was our solution as well. Just below your Google Analytics tag, you just pasted the Usabilla tag, and you would get a nice feedback tab on the side of the website. So it wasn't, I think, until the spring of 2013, so like 6 months later, that when we really got on. Okay, we're really onto something, and that's also when we found breakeven. We went for your information. We went from around 100K revenue in 2012. We went to 500K in 2013. So that gives you an indication what how our growth was.
And what was the decision, Mark? Because you found your product market fit, right? You had a new product with a real clear need. You also, as we, I think, always work with founders and advise founders, you did do the founder sales on that end, right? So really got the first clients in, made them happy, and then at a certain point you scale, right? And you're already profitable. What made you decide at that time, Mark, to go, let's say, from that moment on, bootstrap mode, right? So not raise VC funding, what a lot of founders do, because that's always a lot of debate between founders. Yeah. Should you raise or should we not? I think you can imagine that Anke and I have a particular, let's say, view on that, but I would love to hear your view here.
Yeah. I think it was partially because I just didn't know. And I think on the other side, we had quite a segmented cap table already. So there was no majority shareholder anymore. Yeah, everybody held between 5 and 20% in the company, and nobody had a majority in that anymore. But we also saw that by invoicing our customers up like front, we were able to run the company pretty well. And so for us, it didn't really feel as a need, especially when the numbers were still low. I think later on, when the numbers are getting really big, 2018, we got every month about 1 million euro went out and also had to come in. And when you then have a couple of big customers who decide, oh, I'm not going to pay you this month, I'm going to pay you next month, then you can get cash flow issues. While you can be a very healthy organization, you have a lot of, and this actually happened, right? So we had a lot of debtors. We had about 2.5-3 million in debtors lined up. But just some big companies decided, we're not going to pay you this month, we're going to pay you next month. And that's when we also thought, okay, now I understand why some companies need to still raise, even though you have a very valid business model. But in that moment, we were already thinking about, okay, how can we exit this company? So for us, it was already a ship that was sailed away.
Maybe that's a good bridge to, like, you're talking about 2018, and I believe that the acquisition to SurveyMonkey happened in like a year later in 2019.
Yeah.
What you're now talking about, maybe it was already up in your head, like there might be an exit at some point. Can you tell us about that journey? And really, details do matter often when this happens. So,
no, of
love
course.
to learn more.
We won't tell any further, so you can
No,
share
no,
everything. You know that, right?
no. I think these are very normal. I can give you a lot of the detail actually. I think first of all you need to start with getting all your shareholders aligned, right? And that's it happened on the shareholder meeting. We had a yearly shareholder meeting late 2017, where the early angel investors that invested in Paul in early 2009, Marc Joost and Marijn Pijnenburg, they already had they were 8-9 years in, and they were a little bit hey, maybe we want to get out, and it didn't really pressure us at all. Like I think it was great. We had a very good understanding with our shareholders, and that's also something that I have to say. Also, Roel and I were not a majority shareholder in the company. Nobody was, but I think even though we didn't have formally a lot of say in the company, we had 100% say in the company because they just let us run the company. They saw from early on, okay, Roel and Marc, you can perfectly run the organization next to just our annual shareholder meetings and a couple of calls here and there. We just ran the company. But it was just that shareholder meeting where they brought it up, and we decided to just have a good talk about it. And we had about a 50-50. Like some of the shareholders said, well, I think we're fine. We can still stay on a couple of years. And there were others like, hey, maybe we need to explore the opportunity, right? Like, and we were we were already on a significant revenue, and we didn't raise anymore, so everybody knew their share in the organization. So we were like, okay, we need to start exploring it. We did it just by getting an actual banker, an advisor. Luckily, we had some investors on board who had already did an exit before. They did multiple exits, so they know how this entire game worked. For me, it was completely new, of course. Like I got new terms and share purchase agreement that I don't know what a share purchase agreement is. But I later on learned, of course. We decided that was an actual funny was a good thing to do. One of our shareholders was London based, and we decided to share a teaser with a couple of bankers, because selecting a banker is also very, very crucial in this stage. And we already knew that we probably, if we would sell, we would probably do that to an American organization, because that's where all our type of business was. So we wanted to have a banker that had some to the US market, but also was small enough to actually want to do business with us. So we were very modest guys around that time, and still are, to be honest. But we did the banker selection. So we invited on one day. We invited 4 bankers to that London office, and we got them pitched. So we had 2 in the morning, 2 in the afternoon, and based on the teaser that we sent them up front, they created a lot of info, gave us an overview about the market, and I was already really blown away about how much such banker could actually get out of the market and not of the knowledge that they had. But it's so important that you do business with a banker that understands you, that you can actually work with as well for about a year, and somebody that really understands the market. And in the end we went for a small boutique firm, which was London based, but they had also the HQ in Sweden, so they understood the European market, but they also had somebody in the US and that really understood the market there. Yes, and that's when the process started. But that process is also not an ordinary process, right? Like it's they really such banker wants to do a deal, and they want to de-risk. So they're gonna look, okay, is there another software company where we can sell to? Is there maybe private equity that can buy out some of the shareholders, and then you can invest some more in the company and then take it further? Or is there a VC that wants to step in? So we actually had all these opportunities lined up until the end, and in the end, we decided to go for SurveyMonkey. So that is the
Yeah,
short.
that's a really
Yeah.
quick. And then we saw the SurveyMonkey. Like,
And taking one step back, right? Because that
Yeah.
shareholder meeting, right, where the early shareholders, early angels were eager to sell and not the rest was eager to sell. You had a very dispersed cap table, right? So not anybody owning the majority of the shares, so not easy to take decisions. How did, let's say, the convincing of the remaining shareholders, how did that happen? Because people have to get out, right? Especially in that in a cap table like that. They have to agree also on that end. How did you deal with that?
Yeah, to be honest, it was just very simple. I think in the end, everybody felt aligned. Everybody saw the valuations around that time, which were not that crazy yet as in 21 and early 2022 times, but it was still a very solid valuation for us. So they also saw, they stepped in, everybody stepped in very, very early. So the 750K was 5 informal investors. They all put in 150K, and you know the exit in the end. It was all public information. So they really made a very nice return there. So it was also a little bit of de-risking. Because we saw the market where there were a couple of big players in the market. Qualtrics, of course, Medallia, and even though we were able to get business from them, we were still seen as the smaller European player, and we didn't know how that market was going to turn out. And I think in hindsight, we just made the right decision there to just go for the exit. So yeah, to answer your question, I think everybody was pretty well aligned, but I think everybody was also pretty much aligned because we kept every option open. So it was still, if halfway the process, or maybe the end of the process, it turned out there was not a real strategic party that want to take us, acquire us, then we might have gone for the private equity option, or we might have gone for the actual VC option. They were still open, and because we had all those options, it was very easy to convince our shareholders.
Oh, sorry. So you had an investment banker running the process for, let's say, a buyer, but also at the same time also looking at a VC to further fund the company, right? So you had a dual trajectory, if I understand correctly.
Yeah, well, triple track actually with the private equity option.
With the private equity angle also. Yeah. Okay. Wow. Okay.
and how does it work? Because previously you said it was like a process of about a year.
Approximately from the start when we signed with that advisory firm to the 1st of April 2019 when it was approximately a year. Yeah.
And before you decided to sell to SurveyMonkey, were there other opportunities on the table that made you doubt if SurveyMonkey was the right bet? Or was it very clear when they made the business case? And also, related to that, how did you end up with the final number that you agree on?
Yeah. Let me see. I sometimes I need to think back as well because it's been a couple of years, so I need to dig in my memory. Yeah, I think we until the end we kept the VC option open, and there is a VC here that I still, Paul and I are very in like very good like contact with them still, because we really enjoy them, working with them. But we still found it was a better opportunity with SurveyMonkey. I think for the company in general, SurveyMonkey is a very people-focused organization, and we felt like, okay, if we want to get acquired, we would never get our company acquired by a big organization like Microsoft or an Oracle, because you then know your company gets split up within a couple of months and it's all gone. And we really wanted to have a new home for the organization, and an organization that also want to put some more money in it, and we just found that with the SurveyMonkey. When the funny thing is, SurveyMonkey did their IPO in September 2018. We contacted them in the summer of 2018. They said basically, no, this is too early for us. We're working on our IPO right now. So it was quite late when SurveyMonkey joined the party, so to say, and it was after the IPO when they I think it was November or December even, when they reached out to us again, like, hey, we maybe want to take up the entire conversation again. And when a couple of their executives came to Amsterdam, walked in the Usabilla office, for them it felt like being in a SurveyMonkey office. And that was something for a click. And to be honest, when Roel and I visited the SurveyMonkey office for the same, around that time in the US, for us, it felt like, hey, this could be it could be our office. So that was for us, it was a very natural feeling. And also the numbers were right. I think they gave us a very solid valuation upfront. And that's also a funny thing with this banker selection, because for the banker selection period that we did in around April 2018, they need to give you some kind of a valuation range, right? And we had some bankers that gave us the valuation range of like 30 million. And there was another, when we did the entire the process, there was another strategic party that gave also 30, 35. And while there were bankers, also the one where we did our deal with, that already gave us high 60s, maybe 70s, could be possible here. And SurveyMonkey just maybe it was also a great opportunity for them, because it was the first acquisition after their IPO. So they were really playing with the public market there as well. In the end, well, after they acquired us, the market understood the message a lot, and their stock price went up. So it was a very good deal for them as well.
No, it sounds like a great match where, like, I think in one of the other interviews you said it was such a great culture fit where you walked into their office. It felt like Usabilla, but then 10 times as big. And then that in combination with that number, now that I better understand the context, it seems like, where can we sign? This is,
And how did you, Marc, work with that banker together, right? Because your shareholders requested to look for a potential sale, right? Then you invited the bankers over to pitch in your London office. You selected out of the 4, you selected one. How did you, as a CEO, work together with the investment banker? Because I know a lot of, let's say, CEOs struggle to, let's say, run the business, but also at the same time sell the business. And in this case, you're also trying to fund the business, right? So you got three jobs to take as a CEO, which is not, let's say, the most easy job, as we all know. So how did you, let's say, work together with that banker?
Yeah, no, I think that was the thing I was thinking about as well. Like, how do you run 2 separate businesses? And I was very fortunate to have a solid business partner there. Like Roel, who was my solid guy next to me, and while he was focusing on the more business side, I was focusing on this entire process. So because another thing is, when you're in this process, you need to give some future numbers, but you need to give future numbers that are high enough that they think like, hey, this is a great opportunity, but are also solid enough that you actually make them. Because you need to give your numbers. Well, you're never gonna close your deal within, or often you're not gonna close your deal within a couple of months. So it's often gonna take 6 to 12 months. So we had to really run and really hit our numbers there, and that's what Roel really did well. And next to that, I was most of the time working with the banker, traveling to London, or they would come to us. Another thing that we had a very good CFO next to us as well in our management team, who was really running all the numbers there. Although, and to be honest, there, like, our management team didn't really know that we were in this process. A lot of people knew that we were trying to raise money, but a lot of people didn't really know that we were also maybe want to sell the company. And we also want to keep people focused, and we didn't want people to think like, okay, what is going to happen to my job, because these are things that people are going to think about, right? Like, okay, hey, you're going to sell, what is going to happen to my job? And that's the reason as well why we found it so important to sell to a company that had a great cultural fit, but we also knew it was a great new home for everybody working within the company.
And during that time, you had about 150 employees. Is that correct?
I think 100. When we signed the deal, 135. I think, top of my head. Yeah.
And then the day, let's go into that exit and life after the exit with let's say 10 minutes that we still have. The day that you signed the deal, I remember from Paul, he was like, he went into the office at this like new job during that time, almost like nothing happened. How was that for you? Because you were the CEO, like after the whole process, it was like a big milestone. Yeah. Can you take us through that day and maybe the weeks afterwards?
Yeah. I remember because when prepping for this call, actually going to some pictures from that time, and I know that I think Roel signed it in the office, and I was at home. I had at my table laid out all the different versions of the paper that I had to sign. But again, props for SurveyMonkey. They send over a team of execs to actually tell with me to the team, explain what's going to happen. So it was just not me alone having to explain to the team, hey, we're being acquired by SurveyMonkey. Let's cheer it on, have some drinks, and that's it. No, it was a solid team of SurveyMonkey execs that actually came over and really gave a great presentation in front of other people. But we had an office in New York, we had a Sydney office, Berlin, a London office. So we had a lot of people around the globe. I think the Sydney people were asleep around that time, so they heard it a little bit later. But the other people, we of course dialed them in, and that is how things went. And because SurveyMonkey was a public listed company, there was a 1 month period where things could still go wrong. So they announced the acquisition on early March, and the official acquisition happened on the 1st of April. And it wasn't April Fool's, luckily.
Yeah.
And how did you spend, let's say, the weeks after? Because then your company has been taking over. You've been roughly 10 years busy running the company, 10 years old, the company. What had changed, especially that first weeks, right? And also, let's say, the period afterwards.
Yeah, to be honest, not a lot changed, because we also had to stay on for like 3 years with the company. So for us, it was not an entire book that we closed. It was an actual new chapter. Of course, there were a lot of formal things within the SurveyMonkey. So Roel and I flew to the San Mateo office. We did a town hall, being on stage there. I think SurveyMonkey had about 800-900 people around that time, including the 135 from us. And we had an executive offsite also on the US West Coast. That it was a great opportunity for Roel, myself, to get to know a lot of people within the SurveyMonkey executive team. And it was VP and up, basically. And Usabilla also initial stayed Usabilla. So it wasn't quickly rebranded, and that happened later. But initially it was Usabilla by SurveyMonkey. So we changed some logos here and there, but everything remained the same. And that was, like I said, we wanted to really have a soft landing for everyone, and also for Roel and myself, of course. We built it up until like there was a lot of stress when you're running the company and running this process. But yeah, it was a very soft landing. And I think that's always in the first year. Like after that, things start to get more complicated and more hard.
But was there a moment for you and Roel where you're like sitting together in a room, like, holy shit, what just happened?
Yeah, I think, but we
too busy.
We were also too, like, we after a while we knew that we were going to close the deal. SurveyMonkey was eager, we were eager, everybody wanted to have this deal happen. So it was just really putting some more details into place, but we really wanted to have this deal happen. We did champagne with the team, and like I said, Roel and we went to San Mateo. I think, and what I also recall after that management outing we had with the SurveyMonkey team, that Friday evening we met Paul, because Paul around that time was of course living in San Francisco. He bought us dinner, and we had dinner there, and we cheered. And then, funny enough, Paul went home, and Roel and I went to some club, to some house club, and we had a party there, and then we flew back home the day after. And but like Roel and I are very modest guys as well, so we just wanted to have the best for our team, and that's also why I actually stayed on for 3 more years with SurveyMonkey. Roel left after about 1.5 years. I stayed on for 3 years, a little bit too long if I'm now looking in hindsight, but it was just the way it was. Yeah.
What was the reason that you stayed then too long, Mark? If I may ask as a last question, if
Um,
before we dive, if you are really modest on the valuation, right? But let's answer this question
yeah,
first. Yeah.
I think. Let me see. Like I think for me, we also we went into COVID time, right? And that changed everything. For me, it felt like although I actually live in the south of the Netherlands in a nice town called 's-Hertogenbosch, and I travel by train to the Amsterdam office almost on a daily basis. And for me, that is really me. I'm on the spectrum of extrovert, introvert. I'm really in the middle. It's called an ambivert. So I sometimes need my own safe space, but I also need people around me to get some energy. And that was suddenly lost. And when you then, I was managing a team on the West Coast. I was managing teams in Amsterdam, but we all had to, well, stay just like we're doing right now, right? And that was for me really, it was really a hard time, and I had a personal hard time. I think if I would, if there's something that I've learned from this, I would never agree to 3 years. I think it's not good for both parties. I think after maximum 2 years, it's good to just separate. Like it's then you've done the integration of the company. It's good, and I think maybe sometimes even a year or year and a half. You hardly ever see members of the management team or CEOs or founders still within the company after 2-3 years. Everybody just moves on. And it wasn't that because I knew when we signed for the acquisition, we knew that we were part of another company and that we had basically nothing to say anymore. But it was still like after 3 years, especially with COVID in combination, it was for me, it was just, yeah, it was the end of the entire book. I could finally close this book and just move on.
Can I imagine? Hey, one question to understand it from your perspective, right? Because you see often that if you sell a company, there's some earn out connected to it, or some, let's say, down payment. If you stay, you had something in place like that also, so you had to stay on financially, or was it, let's say, your decision, your personal decision to stay on?
Yeah, it was stock vesting, like so it was Nasdaq listed, so we had SurveyMonkey stock, and that was
Indeed.
vesting. Yeah, SurveyMonkey all arranged that really well. That's yeah.
Good to hear. Good to hear. Thanks for sharing also that insight, right? Especially to stay on so long, because that I know it's a debate that a lot of founders have, and I think very right that you rarely see that people stay on for the whole period, right? It's I've never seen it happen.
No, exactly, and I think it's not only for the founder or the CEO, but it's also for the other
party.
For the other party, like after 2 years, like it is you just need to move on. Yeah.
Yeah, fully agree. Let's go into the valuation, in the guesstimation.
The valuation.
Hi everyone, it's Tim again from the Valuation Corner, and it's great to have you here, Mark. Well, to be fair, this was a fairly easy valuation estimation to do for me, given that the price was public basically everywhere. As I saw in the press, and I think also you, Mark, stated it on your LinkedIn page, the acquisition price was $80 million or about 70 million euros at the point of sale in 2019. Hence, I will not make an estimation on what the price was, but rather have a quick look at the potential revenue level at the time of exit. As I saw in some PR articles, Usabilla was servicing around 450 enterprise clients in 35 countries at the time of acquisition, and you grew the business to 150 employees. When I did check your pricing, I saw an old screenshot of a vendor page where they mentioned that your pricing started at around 10K per year, but I would probably double that amount to get to your average revenue amount, also taking into account that you were servicing enterprise clients. So I would go with maybe $20K per average contract value per year. And this would bring you to an ARR level of 9 million with the 450 clients that you were servicing. With regards to the SaaS multiples in 2019, it was actually a great year to exit a company, I think, before COVID affected companies both downwards and upwards in their valuations. And the M&A multiples around that time were between 8 and 12x. So if we have a look now, like considering that your ARR level was around 9 million and the acquisition price was around $80 million, this would result in an ARR multiple of circa 9x at point of acquisition. So what's your view, Mark? Is my revenue calculation far off, or am I actually right?
No, you're not. I can't give you exact numbers, to be honest, I think. But the revenue was quite above 10 million and the multiple was lower.
The multiple flow. Okay.
So that's, yeah.
Yeah. Indeed.
Good to know.
It's still a great deal, right?
Yeah. And also to give you an indication on the ACV, I think it was between 20, 25 and 30. So the average contract value. We started off with the 10K, but we later on learned on to really shape deals. We of course broadened our entire platform, right? So we had a product for websites, a product for apps, a product for email. So we sought quite some bigger deals later on in our
and also international, I guess,
journey.
like with Della.
100% international.
In the Netherlands, yeah, that's why. I think
initially it was the Netherlands, but
well.
we quite soon we started to expand abroad. Yeah.
Good. Maybe
Hey, Marc,
one last question, if I may, because
sure.
we have to wrap up. One last question for me, because your point about being like a 0 to 1 versus like 1 to 100 triggered me. Now that you're done with this adventure, I'm curious to learn about what's next in store for you. If you're the whole experience made you think of becoming a 0 to 1, maybe joining another 1 to 100, or maybe, I don't know how you're spending your days right now. I think investing, advising the next generation founders, bring them to the next level. So I'm really curious about what's next in store for you.
Do you want to get the commercial answer, or do you want to get the honest?
The honest, yeah.
No, to give you the honest answer, I'm actually still figuring that out. So I'm actually doing quite some things. So I recently became chairman of the board of a Belgium software company called MobiTrain. I became part of the advisory board of a Swiss Netherlands company called SurveyMonkey. It's not on my LinkedIn yet, but it's I'm also advising them. Well, you said I'm running marathons now. So early I was more focused on business goals. But there, next to business, there's also a private life, of course, and spending way more time with my two lovely daughters and my wife. I ran the Amsterdam Marathon about a little bit over a year and a half ago, and I did the Rotterdam Marathon last April. So spending my time on that, and I've also started a new company with my father and another business partner in Belgium. It's not on LinkedIn yet, and it's a consultancy company around the Odoo ecosystem. Not sure if you're familiar with Odoo, one of Belgium's unicorns, and an ERP system, and doing that as well. So I'm quite busy there, but I'm still also figuring things out. I just see how things go.
Yeah. Great, lots of opportunities.
So, probably you get a lot of reach out also after sharing that on this podcast, Mark. But that's a last question for me. If you, but it's good, right? If you could, especially if you look now, right, back on Usabilla time, and I think we all know that I think the biggest learning is what we have afterwards, right? Realization, what we should have done differently or could improve, etc. What is the number one, the same thing? What you, with all the knowledge that you have right now, right, and all the things that you've done, would do differently, especially as a CEO of Usabilla?
Shall I give a very cliche answer?
Yeah, please.
Nothing.
Oh,
for
cool.
me, this was the perfect journey. I made the right decision to join Paul in 2011. Took it over a year after, and together with my new business partner Roel, we just made this journey. And it's, of course, that journey never goes all the way up. You always have these ups and downs. But if I look back in hindsight now, and also the company that we created, the culture that we created, we had one of the most beautiful offices here in Amsterdam as well. We all made right moves there. So I think that the one what we already spoke about, I would not think stayed for three years, but that's just in hindsight, and you learn from that. And that's if I would ever be in another thing like this, I would probably negotiate 1.5, maximum 2 years, but maybe even 1 year. And apart from that, I think we've made a perfect ride. So very happy about that.
Yeah. And something you really can be proud of. Great story, Marc. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah. Welcome. You're welcome.
And for founders being in a similar situation than you were, can they reach you? Are you open to taking founder calls? Yeah. How can they best reach you?
People that know me, they know that I'm always open to have a coffee or have a chat. Like I'm doing it on a regular basis. So
perfect.
Just send me a note on LinkedIn, and we'll arrange something.
Awesome.
Okay, Marc.
Thank you for sharing your story, all the insights, the details.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And
thank you for having me on the show.
Yeah, same.
Great.
Okay, Marc. Okay. Bye-bye.
See you.
Bye-bye. Thanks.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of The Big Exit Show. We hope you enjoyed today. If so, please subscribe to our show on Spotify or your favorite podcast platform. If you have feedback or suggestions for guests that you want to see on the show, please send us a message to podcast@peak.capital. Thanks again for listening, and hope you join us for the next episode.